Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Douyin webinar. They've got some people still joining, but we will start on time, which is a first here at Emerging Comms. So it's midday UK time. So welcome also to those in APAC that are joining this evening. So I am really pleased to introduce myself, CEO of Emerging Comms, and Rocky here, who is our planning director from Emerging Comms, who'll be speaking a bit later, and Melody, who will be moderating this session and running the Q&A. Please do use the Q&A function in this webinar and post your questions. We will answer them at the end. If we run out of time, which we did at our last Little Red Book webinar, there were so many questions, we will get back to you with the answers later on today by email. So please do use that Q&A function. Okay. So just a little bit about who we are, because I'm very conscious that some of you on this webinar have never come across Emerging Comms before. We are an Anglo-Chinese agency based in both London and Shanghai. So I have a team in both countries, really important. We'll explain why later. And we work with a plethora of UK and European brands and organisations who are looking to drive sales from China through robust and marketing that works, essentially. So we're very focused on driving sales. So sales KPIs is what drives us in terms of our campaigns. And this webinar will focus very much on how we use Douyin to drive leads and drive sales for education providers. And we also are really big on student recruitment for private schools, public schools, universities, education apps. And we will talk only specifically about Douyin today as a channel of choice, but we obviously operate across all of the social channels, as well as search, as well as planning, strategy and research. So we work with all sorts of education providers and some of you on this webinar today. So thank you for joining, for those of you that are working with us already. So I'm just going to talk through what we're going to cover today. So I'll be going through why Douyin should feature in your marketing plan. So where does it fit in the marketing mix? What's its role in terms of the lead funnel? And then Rocky will kindly go on to 6 top tips that we always use and we make sure that we include as part of our planning and deployment of Douyin campaigns. And what's important to mention is that anybody can use Douyin. So your local sales agent might use it, or an agency or somebody in-house, but it's making sure that you do it in the correct order and you include those 6 top tips that makes the difference between a lackluster campaign and a campaign that's going to drive robust leads that are going to convert, which we'll talk about at length. I will then talk you through some case studies of brands that we've helped using those 6 top tips. So I will talk through them in quite significant detail. They're all very different to give you a real idea as to how Douyin can be really flexible across different types of organizations with different wants and needs. And then we will run a Q&A session at the end. And so please hang on for that. And please do put your questions into the Q&A panel, because Melody, we can't see it, myself and Rocky will be monitoring that throughout. So, okay, let's get started. So it's important to note that Douyin, and a lot of you will know TikTok in the West, it's the same company, it's a Chinese company, ByteDance, who owns 2 platforms, one of which is Douyin, and I will also be talking about the other sister company a bit later on. So Douyin is quite different to TikTok. Certainly my daughter uses TikTok here in the UK, and it's very much a teen channel. Not so in China. It is very much a user base that has, we'll talk about demographics in a second, a much wider appeal. And it's pretty substantial in its size. And sort of monthly users are over 700 million. But what is important to understand is it's the #1 short video platform in China, now used by all sorts of people, not just Gen Z, not just youngsters, but their parents and other stakeholder groups. And it is very much a channel of choice when you are looking at video and you're trying to get inspiration. So the other thing worth mentioning that's quite different about Douyin, and I'm not for one second suggesting you have a campaign which has Douyin in it. We do have some universities that only do Douyin lead gen. Not advised, but you can do it, and we can use it to drive leads, and we'll talk about that. But really, it should be part of your marketing mix. They all have different roles to play. But what is important to understand about Douyin is that the users of the platform, your viewers, the parents, the students, your potential customers, will spend a long time on the platform. On average, 2 hours, 120 minutes, which is a lot. I wonder how they've got so much time, but then I forget that they're probably not working. But then you compare that to WeChat, which is just over an hour at 61 minutes. And WeChat tends to be also longer sessions and people dipping in and out of it throughout the day. Little Red Book, which is 57 minutes on average, and Weibo, which is 47 minutes. It's really sticky. It's a really sticky platform. And your users will spend a good 2 hours on the platform. In terms of audience, this is really, really important to understand, is that the audience are really receptive to advertising. They're aware that most of the videos on there are a form of advertising, whether they're programmatic ads or whether they are organic ads, they're still ads. But the audience are really receptive. And again, the other channels have a part to play, but Weibo, in terms of video receptiveness, is only 28%. Little Red Book, 39%. So it's really, really receptive audience. So it's really, really important for lead generation, provided that the creative is correct, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So I think the most important thing to understand about Douyin at this juncture in the webinar is the user base, the demographics are totally different to TikTok. You've got almost a 50-50 split, male, female, but as you can see, 30% are between 24 and 30, only a fifth, 20% are under 24. You've got a quarter over between 31 and 35, and then you've got 26% over the age of 36. So don't be under any illusion. This is not a platform for pure Gen Z. This is a platform for a lot of age groups and a lot of demographics. And we will be talking at length about segmentation shortly. The other thing I love about this platform, and I'll talk about this more when I talk about some case studies where we've done this as a proof point, is that you can really put in search terms around needs, wants, experiences. And that's just something that is an absolute, amazing thing when you're planning a campaign. For example, it could be around student recruitment. It could be converting your offer holders. It might be you want to show off your campus. You want to do, and we've recently done quite a lot of graduation videos for our university, so you might be doing a graduation video. So you can tag and set up, search terms that you want to be found on, and we'll talk about that more. That will be more Rocky's bit in a minute, but I love that function, and it's something we use all the time on Douyin. So the other member of the family, Toutiao, there's also part of ByteDance. We're not going to talk about it in length, but I have to mention it here because it's part of the same family. And with some of the case studies I'll mention later, we actually use them in parallel because Toutiao is also brilliant for targeting parents. And a lot of the universities where we're doing a activation campaign, a lead generation campaign, we will use them in parallel. So just a little bit about Toutiao as a channel. Has 292 million active users. It's a huge channel. It's been around longer, but it's just different. And we tend to use it for the family decision makers. And let's not forget, depending on what you're selling, but if it's public school education, UG education, it's the parents that are paying. So you're not just talking to the student. You very much have to talk to the whole decision-making unit. Very well educated. And a vast majority are in your tier 1 and emerging tier 1 cities. So these are the cities where they're going to be able to afford to send their children abroad, or they're going to be sending them to international schools in China. So as you would expect, high propensity in Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, etc. So tier 1 cities. So we will be doing a separate webinar on Toutiao, but I thought I'd mention it because when we talk about the case studies and using Douyin in practice, Toutiao is very much part of the mix. So I'm going to move on to Rocky now to talk about our 6 top tips for running successful lead generation campaigns on Douyin. And we thought this was the easiest way, really, to show you how we get the results we do, was actually to go through them one by one. So over to you, Rocky.
Thank you, Dominica, for explaining the what and why of Douyin. Now I'm going to crack on the how bit. How Douyin can be leveraged as a super effective tool to help you to hit your recruitment target in China. So number one, define your campaign objective. I know it sounds very basic, but let's all agree it's not rocket science. But let's go back to the basic of marketing methodology. What do you want to achieve from your Douyin campaign? Or in another word, what does success look like to you? Are you trying to use this campaign to heavily boost your brand visibility, preference, or direct lead generation activities? And also, as Dominica mentioned, that Douyin would be perfectly fit in your integrated campaign in China. So if you think about the application cycle, and you also think about the other channels, the other paid activities you're running on different platforms, because we couldn't ignore the fact that Douyin is not the only platform used by your target audience. So it's quite important to understand, the channel mix you're currently using and how Douyin fits in. And then you drill down to the specific objective of the specific campaign you're going to run on Douyin. So basically, from brand awareness, credibility building, down to lead generation. These are real live examples of how we run Douyin campaigns for our education clients in different stage for a different purpose. So let me start with the awareness. So at the top of the sales funnel, Douyin can be used as a powerful tool in terms of brand awareness building. And it's extremely powerful when you're collaborating with influencers. This is a real life example of how we collaborate with a bilingual speaking Gen Z influencers on Douyin to kind of like have a campus tour with a specific theme to softly promote a university's experience. And then that align with the integrated channel mix, the roadmap we are planning and running for this client. So it's kind of like top of the funnel. We got this campaign launched at the beginning of the application cycle, and then gradually we follow up with more specific lead generation campaign. And the second example in here is how we leverage user-generated content in the consideration purpose campaign. So in the consideration stage, prospective students are evaluating their options and comparing different universities or different offers or different choices they have. So in this stage, by featuring testimonials, video testimonials from current students and even alumni, graduates, that as a university or education provider, you can address potential students' concerns, questions, or expectations, and also highlight your unique value proposition through authentic content not really created by brand, but also co-created with the stakeholders, namely your current student and alum. Finally, in the conversion stage, Douyin as a very powerful tool for your lead gen. However, it has to be powered by the right targeting strategy in alignment with compelling creative and also a very well-designed in landing page to provide an optimal journey for your target audience to get them to the next stage. Number two, identify and create the target audience segments for your campaign. Yes, Douyin is a very powerful tool, along with Toutiao, that you can reach out to so many audience segments you want. But again, back to the basic question, who are you trying to target in this specific campaign? Yes, you may say, yes, I want to, you have a demographic target in your mind. I want to target students aged from X to Y, along with their parents. But this is how specific you can be in today's targeting backend on Douyin and Toutiao. User profile is only one of the basic targeting techniques that you can leverage. You can also leverage very specific location-based target. You can also leverage behavior targeting, preference targeting, what content has touched them before, what content has captured their attention before, and what are the groups you want to exclude from your campaign, and how do you do seeding strategy. And you can also do scenario-based targeting, what kind of live streaming they've participated before. And also Douyin has built-in e-commerce function, for example, whether they have purchased English learning or English exam related textbook or learning materials, that could also be considered. Without going into this like a little bit boring details, I will give you a real life example. A couple of months ago, one of our university clients approached us, and they want to run a campaign targeting not students, but academics in China to boost their university's reputation in the global research kind of like leagues. So they are targeting academics aged 30 to 45-year-old, mainly male, specifically research in some specific majors within engineering fields. That's a very niche group. And when we first proposed Douyin as the go-to tactic, and we got, clients was surprised, like, because they thought Douyin was equivalent as TikTok in Western countries. So they were like, no, why would our target audience, mature, boring nerd, middle-aged men, be on this platform? Then we look into the data segmentation. We actually run, sample data from the back end. When we are doing proposals, we realize that, we help clients realize how precise they could be through this super powerful targeting matrix backend on Douyin and Toutiao. And we successfully locate to the specific cities, to the specific interest tags and specific behaviors, and it results in hundreds of signups to their research thought leadership newsletters. I think we 250. I think we exceed the expected KPI by 250%. So that's all down to the precise targeting strategy as well as the compelling creative assets, which is literally my next topic. How do you develop the right video assets on Douyin? The average life cycle of video content on Douyin is around 5 days. So you need to always find a way to create different types of video to sustain audience attention, because it's a short video platform. If they see it twice, they're not interested, they'll drop. And more importantly, majority of audience don't have patience. If the 10 seconds, the golden first 10 seconds, if you don't get them, you don't get them. So in a lot of cases, when we are creating contents for clients' Douyin campaign, we would tell client that no, we only the first 20 seconds of your video wouldn't work. We'll just redo the order. We just put the most bang information in the first 5 seconds to get their attention. And we found that scenario-based video works the best. You know, and then you can also, there's a lot of tools, Douyin video editing tools that we use to help create, you know, videos in multiple versions to help, you know, refresh the angles and in order to retain the target audience attention. So it's crucial to ensure that the video has the right pace. And we often got like, you know, whether we need Chinese subtitles or should we do voiceover? It's a very interesting question. It really depends on who are you talking to. But normally, considering, you know, the amount of information from global received by today's Chinese, especially in developed cities, target audience, you know, Chinese subtitles are completely fine. Don't add voiceovers if it's not necessary. It would make your brand look too localized or too Chinese. You lost the, especially in the education sector. You need to find a balance in between being a global institution versus, like, you know, and your dedication to China market. So localization is the word we constantly use. So yes. So and there are also different ways of adding Chinese subtitles. You can add, like, this is a real life example that, you know, you can use different space for highlighting the theme, and rather than just traditional Chinese subtitles. As again, because their attention goes really fast. So it doesn't necessarily to make very long and, you know, hard to grab subtitles. You just need to highlight the theme and the key messages. But the video itself really matters, the pace and the images. And having a clear call to action, it goes without saying, it's a must. Otherwise, you can't push them to the next stage. And have a very, you know, normally you can add a very clear backdrop that highlights the brand, and also giving a very specific CTA as January 2024 admission is now open. So they know they can take action now, and you're taking them to the next stage. Based on our own experience, we found that videos featuring Chinese students, real students, in a day in life works really good because it's seen as authentic rather than just another brand propaganda video. So and within that, it's very important, as I just said, it's very important to strike a balance, not be overly Chinese focused. You need to demonstrate the overall environment, you know, how a Chinese student fits in the global environment. Last but not least, always consider A/B testing your creative. So normally for our campaign, we would prepare 3 to 4 different creative packages in order to test out the best one. How to choose the right advertising format for your campaign, because, you know, feed ads is just only one of many advertising format in today's Douyin advertising platform. So today I'm going to introduce you 4 types of Douyin advertising format, from brand takeover to in-feed ads, which is probably the most familiar one, and the newly launched, I think 2 years ago, the newly launched search advertising, and also the advanced ones, brand effective, like AR powered sticker campaigns. So let me start with the brand takeover. It goes without saying, as it is, it's this advertising format. It's a full screen advertising display as soon as you open the app. And then the call to action can lead to either a landing page or live streams. These advertising formats most appropriate for brands looking for a branding boost. However, they're not geared toward conversion. The focus is normally pure branding. because you can't really redirect them to from e-commerce practice. You can't really redirect them to a product specific page. And also from education industry perspective, the CPM, CPC is generally really high. So we are normally seeing big retail brands leveraging this. In-feed ads, the most common ad form for Douyin advertising. The ads would appear in the recommendation for you feed. So users can, as they scroll through the videos, these would appear. You can promote up to 6 seconds short videos, which will be displayed in the natural feed. These ad form includes a clear call to action that you can put in to take your target audience to a landing page. This is very recommended if you got like only a certain amount of budget to test out, to pilot, because it's seen as the most cost effective for lead generation. Search advertising is a very interesting one. Douyin launched this, I think, 2 years ago, and last year Douyin wanted to promote the search advertising function, and which basically search word takeover. For example, you can take over study in the UK for 2 weeks, and then anybody search that would be taken to your brand zone, taken to your landing page to give them more opportunity to learn more about you. So Douyin wanted to promote this function a year ago to make it a big deal. And then they collaborated with huge brands like Coca-Cola, and they launched a very interesting campaign called "Please Don't Search This." Then you know how user would behave if you say, "Please don't search Coca-Cola on Douyin, otherwise you will be regretting." And then everybody searches it. So it's a cross promotion in between Douyin launching this new function and also, you know, driving enormous brand interactions for big brands. So it's just a very interesting case to share with you. But you can consider, you know, if you're already a mature brand, you can consider take over your own brand name or take over more generic keywords to heavily boost your brand engagement, and also, you know, driving qualified traffic for lead gen. Last one, it's more advanced. It's what we call branded video. This is a real example from Lego last year. And then they, you know, it's a AR filter. And then normally how it works, it would be brand would announce that they launched this stickers or AR filters, then they're welcoming the audience to engage with it. So brands can literally make customized stickers or filters to promote a product or a new launch. Then users can the stickers on their own video and create funny and engaging content on their own. You will be surprised how many today's Douyin audience in China are more than willing to participate in shooting their own videos. So videos with stickers or AR filters can inspire other users to try out themselves. So being such a vivid way of advertising, this is seen as a very popular way of engaging with Douyin audience nowadays. So then the next question would be, you capture the traffic and then you drive them to the landing page, and then what's next? This is a real example of one of our university clients that we recently launched this campaign for them. So as you can tell, like it required, like, you know, very eye-catching. You can tell from the design of the first screen grab that they capture your attention with very clear key message and call to action. So we create engaging and visually appealing creative that capture the attention first, and then you drive them to the in-app landing page that allow them to fill in their information. And also, it's very important that what wording you put on the call to action. In here, we'll literally put book your one-on-one consultant rather than inquire, because one-on-one consultant, it's more compelling as someone would come to me individually rather than just throwing me in a big pool. So, however, it's also important that when you are launching this campaign with such clear call to action, that you give some promise to your audience. You need to align with your sales team, that they need to align with you in the campaign planning stage, that what inquiries they would be expected and what is the expectation of the audience fulfilling the form. If they are expecting one-on-one consultant, then you need to deliver your promise to them. What we call in-app landing page, as you can tell in here. So instead of directing users to external websites or links to your official website, we only recommend, and this is how the Douyin platform works, the in-app landing page, to reduce any potential of you losing them in the middle. So you don't take them out of the Douyin environment. So we can very easily design a landing page within the Douyin app, but however, the content and the structure takes time to think. So what information you wanted them to see the first, and you need to put call to action form in the middle of the scrolling downs, and also at the bottom. And you don't want to make 10 pages long, and by the time they reach the middle, they already lose their interest. So, and also you can completely bespoke your inquiry form based on what required in your CRM, and also considering you want to minimize the risk that you might lose them in the middle. So make it clear, easily to be filled in, and concise. You can see questions popping out. Welcome to type in your question. We'll be answering them when we reach the Q&A stage. So finally, you launch the campaign, you're capturing the leads, and how can you continue to optimize your campaign performance? Then the matrix, it's not massively different from any paid campaign you would run on any other platforms. Audience reach, you can tell how much, basically it's how much the ability of reaching to your targeted audience. And also, I'm gonna share you a real experience, because you need to find a balance in between reach out to enough target audience versus the precise one. Because if your target group are less than 1 million, then you would be having some risk of you couldn't get your advertising out at all, because it's too niche. So we are here as an agency. We are here to help you to find a balance to hit your KPI. But there's a lot of things we need to adjust in the back end and continuous monitoring on daily basis to make sure that it has enough reach, however, very precisely. So click-through rate, same as other paid campaigns. Conversion and cost per lead, that's again, it's no difference with other paid platforms. The thing I actually want to highlight in here is the lead qualification rate, because that's not just as I put 3 words in here. It's actually a collaboration in between marketing team, recruitment team, or we say sales team, because the lead qualification rate, you can only get it if you have timely and openly conversation with the sales team, whether that's your in-house recruitment team based in China or third party you hire to follow up the lead. So there needs to be kind of like alignment in the beginning, like when the lead will come in approximately, and and would you follow up with them within 48 hours? Because if you follow up them a week later, then of course they couldn't consider as qualified lead because they may forgot they fill in the inquiry form. So it takes both teams' efforts, and there are certain ways of increase the qualification rate if it is not as good as expected. But however, the most important thing is the conversation and open dialogues in between marketing teams and sales teams. I think Domenica could share more when she's when she's wrapping up this session for me. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Rocky. That was fantastic. So just in summary, and they really have to be done in this order, this is the 6 things that we do as an agency and a partner of our brands to ensure the best results. It's quite easy to set up a Douyin campaign and to run it, but to get the results that we do, which we'll be going through in a second, these are the things that we do every single time. And obviously, if we're working with a client already on other channels, the whole process is quicker, but we never miss out a step. We always, to just summarize on Rocky's points, we always focus the campaign that we are planning on what we're trying to achieve. So if we're doing top of funnel brand awareness, or we're doing lead gen and at bottom of the funnel, it's a very, very different campaign in terms of the way we plan it. Secondly, Douyin, as Rocky has been through and I'm about to go through in a bit more detail in practice, you can segment to the nth degree on behavior, on demographics, on geography. And so we make sure that now we know the objectives and we know then who we are targeting and where we are targeting them. We put in as many interest tags as we possibly can. We then look at creative and messaging. So the right creative formats with the creative that is actually going to resonate with the audiences we have identified, and we create the right messaging for those advertisements for that creative. This sounds pretty obvious, but I've seen some horror shows recently of some narrative that's been written in Chinese from Google Translate. Absolutely not. It needs to be written directly into Chinese. It can be back translated so that the client understands it in English, but must be written in Chinese by a Chinese copywriter. So it's going to be compelling and it's going to resonate. And then last but not least, but extremely important, and I've seen a question for this anyway, so I'll talk about it later in the Q&A, absolutely vital to make sure there's not only a call to action, but it's very easy for somebody to acquire or inquire to your organization. Even if you've done brand awareness, we'll always make sure there's a CTA on there. Otherwise, you're just making it too complicated if they have to go to another channel, another app, or a landing page elsewhere. So everything should be done within the platform. We then monitor with both what we can see in the back end of Douyin as well as the sales team to see what is actually converting, what's the level of quality of the inquiries, and when we will track and optimize the campaign throughout to make sure you get the best possible results. Okay, so I'm going to move on to some case studies now and actually show this in practice, because it's all very well and good. And I can appreciate if you're on this webinar, the attitude might be, well, that's all very well and good, but how do you actually do it? And give me some examples. So we've got 4 examples here of 4 very different institutions. So let's start with Nord Anglia. Nord Anglia provides education through bilingual schools in various Chinese cities. So they are currently in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Beijing, and Dalian across China for both primary and secondary education. So what they wanted to do was lead generation, drive applications to specific schools. And so what we did was we capitalized firstly on the timing, really important when we were planning this campaign. So we looked at the objectives and went, okay, we need to plan this between November and December and March and June, which is when all the applications happen for secondary and primary education. And then pretty obviously we need to tag and set up this campaign for the cities we've identified, as well as behavioural interest tags and demographics. We want to make sure that who we're targeting is the correct audience for both parents and children across those cities. And we worked really closely with their student recruitment team in all of the schools to ensure that they were giving us evidence of what was going through and what was the level and quality of these leads and these inquiries, and then we could continually optimize the campaign. And one thing we have to be careful of is we can't give too much away in terms of results because it's clients' data and information, but we overachieved the KPI, and the qualification lead rate was over 55%, which is astounding. Normally you would expect under 15%, if that. So this is an example. If you get the segmentation right, get the creative right, that you can actually create leads that are of exceptional quality on Douyin campaign. So the next one, just having slight problems with my mouse here, is the University of Manchester. Rocky talked about this a little bit earlier, and the University of Manchester were looking to target some really, really complex stakeholders with their campaign, which was Chinese researchers and academics. And obviously, when we first proposed this channel, the attitude was, well, actually, are you sure? Isn't that TikTok? So we've talked about earlier on about Douyin is not similar and cannot be compared to TikTok, that you can actually use it to target some very specialist areas and people. So what we did was we focused a lot on analysing that audience and then creating really curated content so that it would resonate and stand out from the crowd to actually achieve the objectives, which was to effectively engage with this really, really, really specialist audience. So we didn't have very long. It was a very time-sensitive campaign. And from doing that TA analysis, the audience analysis, and then setting up the campaign, we had 2 weeks after that analysis, which is incredible. But we were very much against the deadline. And we created assets that would specifically appeal to that audience. So there were bespoke assets for that campaign. And we used both Toutiao and Douyin. So we used both sister companies with banner ads on WeChat also. So Douyin was part of the marketing mix. And a lot of interest tags were put into the back end of these platforms with daily monitoring. And the lead qualification rate was outstanding at 90%, and 31% of overachieved the KPI in terms of leads. And the KPI was very, very tough. A, given the deadline, and B, given the audience. It just goes to show this is a really good example. If you get the interest tags right and the creative right, you can target even some of the most niche industries. So third one, when it works. There we go. Unite Students, the student accommodation, #1 provider in the UK, been a client of ours for many years. And what they were trying to do was to drive direct bookings, not agent bookings, but direct bookings from students that already had a university offer. So the #1 priority here was timing. We had to make sure we got the timing right. April, May is the perfect time when students have decided where they're going to go. They'll then be searching for accommodation. So we created a campaign targeting students and their parents around April, May time. And we created very bespoke, punchy ads for that audience on Douyin and created in-app landing pages to make it really easy to inquire. The lead results were achieved. We had over 1 million impressions in 28 days, and they were extremely happy with the direct number of applications that they got through the Douyin channel. And I think the creative, the segmentation and the timing were critical to that. Lastly, University of Kent, which we've discussed a little bit earlier on. This was about visibility, but specifically also about their business school and computer science courses and faculties. We do a lot of campaigns that are around specific faculties that have separate budgets for doing an activation when we're dealing with the university as a whole in terms of brand awareness. And they really wanted to attract prospective students for both UG and PG. And we had 4 sets of creative for video for both PG and UG, and use these video assets to target students that were looking to study those courses in the UK. And again, really, really good results. So you can see from these 4 campaigns, very, very different, very different institutions with very different demographics, geographies, and objectives. So there is no one size fits all with Douyin or with any channel in China. Be aware and beware rather than be aware, I'd say, of just Google translating won't work. Using the same assets you maybe have used on WeChat or Little Red Book won't work. We can localize content you already have, but it's got to be right and it's got to resonate with the audience. It all comes back to the objectives that we set at the very, very beginning. Okay, so one thing we have done for this webinar is set up or put together a package for you. We have a lot of universities come to us and schools and say, well, that's all very well and good, Domenica. What might it cost for you to set up as a campaign? We'd like to just test the water, never used this channel before, we're on other channels. We'd need you to do it from start to finish. So one thing I would say is every client is different. And the big difference, the reason I put starting from 9950 on here is the fact that if you haven't got video assets for us to localize, we obviously need to create those. But that's a pretty indicative cost for most of the ones that we worked on, where we've started with Douyin and then we've actually introduced other channels and other marketing to complement it, which is obviously the preferred route in order to get the best results, because if you're not on other channels, that's going to have an impact. But we've put together this campaign or product, if you want to call it, for those on this webinar that they may want to take advantage of if you want to test out the platform, and just email melody@emergingcomms.com. And if you forget about those details, just email us at the end, because you'll have our details from having signed up from the webinar. I'm going to leave you on this page so that you can contact us if you have any questions that haven't been answered or anything you can't find. And we're going to move over to Q&A now, Melody. I know you've been moderating the questions. Some of them were answered in the webinar and some of them are extra questions, which Rocky and I can't see. So over to you now with the questions you'd like us to answer.
Yeah, so we have one of the questions. So would you still recommend search ads if the university doesn't have official Douyin account? I think this is also asked by the other person who's also asking if you need to have an official Douyin account in order to run lead generation campaign. So I will answer this one. You don't really need to set out your official Douyin account. You are able to set out an ad account either through your own entity or through your partner, your agent's ad account. So you don't need to have an official Douyin account in order to run advertisement. Regarding the search ad, as Rocky highlighted earlier, it's a very specific traffic you are driving to. So you do need to balance the traffic and also the kind of inventory you have. If you are selecting keywords too niche, you might find your ads will not be able to be pushed out because it's just too limited. So we will always recommend you also complement with some in-feed ads, which will have better reach, audience reach, complementing with some search ad, which is will be driving very qualified niche traffic to your landing page. So that's the question. We also have the other question regarding the landing page. So the question is about, will you recommend in-platform landing page on Douyin, or will external landing page work too? Actually, this is also a follow-up question, but maybe one of you, maybe Rocky, can.
Yeah, I think I briefly mentioned it while I was presenting. We only recommend in-app landing page because that's how the platform works. And if you put in another word, not only just impacting the user journey because it's instant link, it's completely integrated if it's in the app, and it takes more time to load if it's an external page. And to be honest, because Douyin doesn't like external links. So if you force it to be landing to an external link, you might have traffic restraint from Douyin. So we would only recommend in-app. Very simple answer.
There's also a follow-up regarding the in-app landing page. It's about how you can make sure it meets the university GDPR rules. I don't know if Rocky can answer, or Dominica, or myself.
I'll be honest, we have a compliance department that checks all of our GDPR compliance for China, and I have a lawyer that does that. So I can assure you that all of our campaigns are compliant. But I would expect the university or education establishment, if they're not using us, to be asking their legal team, or to ensure that their agency is asked their legal team. We do. I'll be honest about the details of it. I leave that to my compliance team at Emerging Comms, so I can't answer that directly. They just advise us, and we follow their legislation based on the updated legislation from Chinese government, which is substantial. Rocky, unless you can make it simpler.
I will only make it more complicated. I think it's checked by everybody, every stakeholder. Firstly, as Dominica mentioned, we would check from China legal perspective, and we have a compliance team to responsible for that, and we are also involve the right team from our client side to make sure they put a stamp on it. And also there are also compliance rules established by Douyin on its own. So it's 3 stamps on to make sure everything is under control and definitely compliant.
Yeah.
Great.
Any more questions?
I think this probably we can answer a couple more questions. So another question is about how would you recommend optimizing Douyin campaign in order to generate the best result?
I will be able to answer that. I think it's just like when you are running any other ad campaign, but the difference is it changes faster, and you would have more significant different response from your audience group to different creative angles or creative packs. So it's very important that we do daily monitor, but also in the first, I would say in the first 5 working days or 5 days of campaign running, we need to allow some time for the platform to conduct some optimization automatically through big data and behavior learning. So normally in the first 3 to 5 days, it's crucial for us to monitoring, but not rushing into any significant change of the campaign setting. Allow some time, then when the actual pattern shows, we would then decide, okay, we will evaluate and reallocate budget to different ad groups, because you can't have only one ad group within one campaign. Normally we have multiple ad groups, either segmented by different audience groups, or you're trying out different creative angles. So yeah, it's just as any other platforms, it's agility. It's the most important thing, and make quick decision, because if you're and all of our clients are we are together with them in this agility campaign management, because our clients, when we ask them, when we trying to get their permission of budget reallocation in between different ad groups, we got their immediate response. So that is crucial, because you're burning your media budget. So I guess a good alignment of strategy before the campaign launch, but keep the agility with during the campaign period, and or have open dialogue with your agents, with your marketing agents, whether that's us or the other partners.
Okay, just one final question.
Hard work.
Sorry.
Leave the hard work to us.
Just one final question. I think, Dominica, this is for you, is how do you make sure the lead qualification rate is high? How to integrate the sales and marketing team?
I think this is pretty crucial, not just for Douyin, for any marketing in China. And it's probably the biggest sticking, spot for most education providers if this doesn't happen. So with everybody we deal with, there will be somebody in market. It could be one or two or a group of salespeople in China, or it might be agents as well. But this is mainly, we're talking about direct campaigns here. So let's talk about salespeople. It's critical that at the start of the campaign, we always engage with the sales team. That's the first thing we do. We find out what their leads process is. We'll shorten it. We'll streamline it. We'll put it into an in-app landing page. We'll make sure it's answered in a timely fashion. Who's going to answer it? How can we get feedback back to us in the UK and China in terms of what the lead quality is, so that helps us as part of the optimization process. The optimization isn't just about what we can learn in app, and there's a lot of things that we get in the dashboard, but it's also, well, what's the quality of the leads coming through? Are we finding they're from one particular area? Are we finding that we need to tweak something? But it's about an open dialogue and communication with the sales team is absolutely critical. I'd say that's one of the reasons our conversions are so high, is that we treat them as part of this whole marketing mix, and they're part of the stakeholder group that we have to engage with, as well as the university or school or brand marketing team. We always include China. That could be customer service, sales, as I said, any number of parties, but we make sure it's all aligned. That's the most important thing, I'd say. Open dialogue and communication.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you all. I think we are nearing the time. Thank you so much for everyone who attended this webinar.
Yes, thank you both, Melody and Rocky, and also for the content. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for everybody who attended. We will be sending out a link to this webinar for anybody in your teams that couldn't attend, and the follow-up email will be out this week, so probably tomorrow. And for those that couldn't make it, we will be sending a link to those. I've had a few messages from people that are still on meetings. And thank you. And I'll see some of you at the brand alignment webinar, and some of you are clients I'll be talking to shortly. So have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay healthy, and good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.